Now, vaccine hesitancy among footballers could spell trouble for England at the World Cup in Qatar, as organisers could insist that all footballers are fully vaccinated in order to play.
Yeah, that could be a problem because only 7 of the 20 Premier League clubs have more than 50% of their players fully vaccinated. The Liverpool manager, Jurgen Klopp, has revealed 99% of his players are vaccinated and added that refusing to take the jab is similar to drunk driving.
Now, we went to Tottenham and asked fans if they thought footballers should be required to have a jab to play.
If they go into these countries that are red countries, then they've got to be protected.
It's not law to be vaccinated. If it had been law, if Boris had said it had been law, then yes. But it's not law.
To protect other people. Yeah, protect me because I'm 82.
I don't think anybody's livelihood or living should be influenced by whether they're vaccinated, whether they're footballers or anybody else.
They shouldn't be allowed to play. It's close contact sport. So close contact sport, they should be fully vaccinated.
And last time I checked, Boris is a libertarian. It's a bit ropey ground.
Joining us now, Mark Palios, former chief executive of the FA, who believes it is a player's personal choice. A ban is not the way forward. And football journalist Alison Bender believes managers should be doing more to encourage players to get the jab. Mark Palios, it might be personal choice, but it's going to interfere with their ability to play at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, slightly, perhaps I've given your analyst the wrong view. I see this is football, and it's the primacy of any local jurisdiction that really matters in this, and their interpretation of what the medical situation is on the ground. So having said that, in terms of players themselves, it comes down to a choice for them, whether they want to go to the World Cup, if you're talking about the England players, or whether they don't. If, and I say if a ban is imposed in Qatar, because that's not certainty at this point in time.
But Mark, what about the general point that Jurgen Klopp was making, that we all have to accept certain laws, rules and regulations when we have a potential impact upon other people? I mean, I felt he put that point incredibly clearly, very, very well, much better than most of the ministers who've been trying to get us vaccinated. And don't you agree with that?
Personally, I agree with the view that, well, I'm not a medical guy, but I actually concur with the view that the evidence seems to support that vaccinations help in a country controlling the situation. So yes, that's if you like, a moral point of view. I'm just talking about the practicalities of when you get to a situation whereby people have imposed a need to be vaccinated in a competition, then you have to understand that. I know that there has been the question of whether or not they can have a sporting sort of a get out of jail free card, in as much that you can put people in a bubble in a competition. The point is that in terms of in a sort of a competition that's like a UEFA final or whatever. But when you're talking about day-to-day in the EFL, it's very difficult because those players, of course, are then going back out into the community. What we've done here is try to persuade players and advise players as regards the efficacy of taking the vaccine, and also one finds in our club what's actually happened is players have looked at it from the extent to which they will be restricted in doing what they want to do, and gradually the numbers have increased. But I have to say, it does appear that that's due to the fact that they will feel their lives will be restricted in terms of what they do.
Alison, only 35% of players have taken up the jab, and 7 of the top-level clubs have a 50% vax rate. I mean, the rates are pretty low. As a journalist, are you hearing why players are not getting double jabbed?
I have to say, Susanna, it really surprised me, those figures, those numbers. And the problem is nobody's really talking about it. And so we don't know why. Everyone feels that they're not allowed to ask. It's one of those really awkward situations. For me, I believe that the players have a duty of care. We all know they're young, fit players, probably very unlikely to be seriously ill with COVID. But what I see on a day-to-day basis as a journalist who goes to football clubs is the people within those football clubs. We see kit men, we see the people that wash the players' kits, we see the chefs, we see the player liaison officers, the press officers, the reporters like me who go and interview them. Now the players are actually coming inside for interviews. We used to interview them on the pitch. And I feel that, yes, of course, the players might say, I don't want to be forced into doing something. But I think at a moment where it actually affects those around you, I think suddenly we need to start doing something about it. I mean, I love the fact that, you know, we're hearing about Jonathan Van Tam and various other epidemiologists and scientists actually going and trying to explain to people, because I'd like to know why the players aren't having it. And I don't think we do know the answers at the moment. So I think, you know, it was interesting to hear Mark saying that he's giving the players around him as much information as possible. But I almost feel like we need to go a step further than that, and actually come. You know, I love the fact that Klopp has actually spoken out about this, and maybe some players will start to really think, because perhaps, who knows, the reasons behind it might be sort of very simple reasons that could be overcome with just a little bit of education, perhaps.
Well, isn't a lot of it? It's the same as a lot of younger people who are not taking the vaccination. It's because there's so many conspiracy theories flying around on social media. But Mark, your players, have those who don't want the vaccination, have you asked them that question, why they don't? Because they're used to going in to see doctors and medical people, and the doctor tells them you're fit, you need this to be done, you're unfit, we need this to be done. They listen to doctors all the time, footballers. So why are they not listening on this one? Yeah,
well, they have had conversations with our doctor, I know that, but it's left to the individual to do that. Van Tam had his conversation with all guys in the EFL, and the manager and the club captain went to that. They then took that back into the dressing room. What we have found is we have some fairly good senior professionals in the dressing room, and they have basically moved the thing on from our perspective locally for us. I suspect the answer is that, once again, people are very loath to interfere with things such as, I mean, I can't even really ask the question as to whether our players are vaccinated or not. So I don't know, just as Gareth Southgate doesn't know. And that's the medical professionals within the game actually respecting the sort of the confidentiality of an individual's medical situation.
The Sun reported that there are 5 players in the England squad who are refusing to be vaccinated. And we know that Qatar is going to ban all non-jabbed players. So that could have, obviously, huge impact on England. But I just wonder, Mark, what you think might persuade them. Would it be the fact that they wouldn't be able to play in a World Cup, which you think was massive? Or might it be Jurgen Klopp's argument about social responsibility and doing it for other people? Because clearly the message about their own health isn't the message that is having an impact.
Yeah, I would probably sort of just test the premise of your question. I don't think Qatar have actually agreed at this point in time with FIFA as regards whether there's going to be a requirement or not. I think, just to answer the question, I think that what's more likely to affect players is if there is a requirement to be vaccinated to go and play in the World Cup, and therefore they're going to miss their chance. Because I think when we'll come back to it, and I don't think it's just specific to footballers. I think, and again, I'm speculating because I'm not a young person, as you can tell, but a lot of young people, I think, feel that they are. It doesn't affect them that much, etc. And I suspect that, you know, when they find, and what we are seeing is when they find that their ability to carry out their lives is being restricted, then they will go for a vaccine. If you are restricted from playing in the World Cup, and it's your choice, I think it's your choice to make that choice. And if you don't want to do that, then their agents will be saying to them, your commercial value will be going down, etc., etc. And sadly, I think it's that type of motivation that will eventually get through to players.
Alison, can I just jump in, Mark? Alison, can I just ask you one final question? One of our viewers, Jerry, has said it's quite simple. They should have a policy of no jabs, no job. Would you go that far to say, actually, if you don't get double vaccinated, you should not be playing?
It reminds me, it's interesting because I like how Jurgen Klopp talked about, he said if you get into a taxi, you'd want to be able to ask the taxi driver, have you been drinking? And he says he feels that he can't ask his players. I would like there to be a situation where everyone's talking about it very readily. Everyone's saying to their players, have you been jabbed and why? I feel that there is a duty of care here. Just to give it an example, but a lot of my friends work at the NHS and they were on their knees in the first wave. People coming in, them having to sign forms about next of kin, not knowing if they were going to go back to their families. And they feel that it's very selfish. If someone comes in having not been vaccinated, it is their job. They have to do their job and treat that person within the hospital. And I feel a similar message needs to be sort of given to these footballers who are refusing the jabs, that it's not about you, it's about those people around you. I wouldn't like to get to a situation, no jab, no job necessarily, because I feel that I don't want to force anyone. But then I like to think of it a little bit like perhaps smoking. So when smoking, we found out was bad for you, the government put warnings on packets and whatever. But as soon as we found out that smoking was bad, passive smoking, suddenly if you wanted to go to a pub, you weren't allowed to smoke inside the pub. So you were being given a choice. You could still smoke. You could stay at home and smoke. You could go around the corner and smoke. But if you wanted to enter the pub, you could not smoke. Yeah. So maybe we need to get towards a situation where if you want to play football, you have to be vaccinated. But I feel we need a long programme of education before we suddenly bring that in.
Okay.
Players have to make their choices, and they're role models, by the way. So everyone looks up to them. So I think it's incredibly important what they decide to do.
Alison Mark, thanks very much indeed. Yes, so the situation with Qatar and the World Cup, supporters attending the tournament have been informed they must be fully jabbed if they wish to travel to the Gulf nation next November. And Qatar is pushing for a rule that would force all players taking part in the World Cup to get the vaccine. Dr. Hillary, no jab, no World Cup.
Well, it could be. What's interesting is that when a player signs for a club, the medical is extremely thorough. And the medical is there to protect the club about, against the player having a cartilage injury, having something that would perhaps cost them millions because the player can't play for them. The same is true of COVID-19, really, in vaccination. I'm surprised that the insurance doesn't say that the player has to do everything they can to protect their own level of health. If they become sick and get long COVID, they could be out for months, and that would affect the club to the tune of millions. I'm surprised that isn't happening.
All right, Dr. Hillary, thanks very much indeed. In a statement, an FA spokesperson said it's a private matter for individuals and their respective clubs as employers. Our preparations for the forthcoming internationals continue as normal.